Is this truly the end for Midnight? The man who once stood in the shadows, loyal and fearless, now finds himself at the edge of destruction. Fans are asking the same burning question: has Midnight's story finally reached its breaking point? Or is there still one more chapter left to be written? From the very beginning, Midnight was never just another character in All the Queen's Men. He was the quiet storm, the figure who moved carefully but with purpose. His presence was never loud, yet every scene he touched carried weight. Midnight became the symbol of loyalty, the man who stood firm in a world where trust was rare. He wasn't a perfect man, far from it, but his flaws made him real. And that's exactly why fans connected with him so deeply. Midnight's journey has been one of survival. Season after season, he proved that he could navigate danger, betrayal, and chaos without losing the core of who he was. He walked a thin line between power and vulnerability. While other characters chased glory, Midnight seemed to move with quiet discipline. His choices often revealed his heart, even when his actions looked cold or brutal. For every moment where he appeared untouchable, there was another moment that reminded viewers he was still human, still capable of being broken. What made Midnight unforgettable was the balance between his strength and his silence. He wasn't always the loudest or the most dramatic character, but that was the point. Midnight knew when to act and when to wait, when to fight and when to disappear into the shadows. In a series filled with high stakes and constant battles, his calmness was his greatest weapon, and yet, behind that calm surface, there was always a storm brewing. A man like Midnight carried scars, both visible and hidden, and those scars shaped every decision he made. Fans often describe him as the heart of the story, even when the spotlight wasn't directly on him. That's because Midnight didn't just survive the game, he gave meaning to it. His loyalty, his sacrifices, his willingness to protect even when it cost him everything, made him more than just a side character. He became a symbol of what it means to stand firm when the world around you is falling apart. Each season built on that foundation, slowly layering his story with more risk, more struggle, and more danger. But loyalty in a world like All the Queen's Men comes with a price. Midnight's dedication to those he served often put him in impossible situations. Time and time again, he was forced to choose between his own survival and the people he cared about. That's what made his journey so intense. It was never just about power, it was about responsibility, about carrying the weight of choices that could not be undone. Viewers saw him break, they saw him rebuild, and they saw him rise again, stronger each time, but also more damaged. As the seasons went on, Midnight's role only grew heavier. He became the one fans rooted for even in the darkest hours. Whether it was his moments of brutal strength or his quiet sacrifices, there was always a reason to believe he would find a way through. But deep down, the cracks in his armor were showing. Midnight was not invincible. He was a man standing against storms bigger than himself, and sooner or later, storms always leave their mark. Now, as season 5 approaches, the weight of his entire story hangs in the balance. Is this the season where Midnight finally falls? Or will the man who has defied fate time and time again prove that he still has one last fight left in him? His arc is more than just survival, it's about what survival costs, and whether even a man like Midnight can pay that price forever. The end of season 4 left fans shaken. Midnight's journey had already been filled with battles, betrayals, and close calls, but nothing prepared the audience for the storm that closed the season. It wasn't just another cliffhanger, it was a moment that forced everyone watching to hold their breath and wonder if the man who had survived everything up until now had finally reached the end of his road. Throughout season 4, Midnight found himself pushed further into danger than ever before. The lines between loyalty and self-preservation blurred in ways he could no longer ignore. He wasn't just a soldier or a shadow anymore, he was a man fighting to keep his place in a world that seemed designed to destroy him. And in those final episodes, the pressure grew so heavy that every move he made carried the weight of life or death. The tension came to its peak when Midnight was caught in a situation that tested both his loyalty and his survival instinct. For years, He had stood firm, protecting those around him no matter the cost. But in the last stretch of Season 4, betrayal lingered in the air. The people he once trusted became his greatest threats. His silence, his strength, and his loyalty suddenly weren't enough to protect him. For the first time, Midnight seemed cornered, outnumbered, and outplayed. That final scene still burns in the memory of fans. Midnight standing in the shadows, his body broken, but his spirit still trying to hold on. Enemies closing in, allies nowhere to be found, and the sound of his own heartbeat echoing like a countdown. It wasn't just a physical battle, it was an emotional breaking point. Every scar, every sacrifice, every choice from seasons past seemed to lead him to that single moment. And then the screen cut to black, leaving the world wondering, was this the last we would ever see of him? What makes that cliffhanger so powerful is not just the uncertainty of his survival, but what it means for the larger story. Midnight has always been more than just a man in the background. He is the anchor that connects the chaos of the Queen's empire to something real, something human. To see him fall, or even to see him suffer in ways that he may never recover from, changes everything. It shakes the very foundation of the show's world. Because if Midnight can be broken, if Midnight can be defeated, then no one is safe. But cliffhangers are never simple. The writers of all the Queen's Men know exactly how to twist the knife. They gave just enough to make viewers fear the worst, but left enough mystery to ignite endless speculation. Some fans believe the silence at the end was symbolic, a hint that Midnight is still alive, still waiting for his moment to strike back. Others argue that his journey reached its natural conclusion, that the man who gave everything to others finally paid the ultimate price. Season 4's ending wasn't just about one character's fate, it was about a shift in power. With Midnight possibly gone, the balance tilts in dangerous ways. His absence creates a vacuum, and in this world, a vacuum is always filled by blood, betrayal, or both. The cliffhanger left fans asking not only is Midnight alive, but also, what happens if he isn't? Because the story cannot remain the same. His presence has shaped every move, every alliance, every betrayal. Without him, the game changes entirely. And that's exactly why Season 5 is now one of the most anticipated yet. Midnight's fate is not just a personal question, it's the question that could reshape the entire series. Was Season 4's ending a farewell, a cruel reminder that no one is untouchable? Or was it the writer's way of setting up the biggest comeback in the show's history? The truth is, cliffhangers exist to torment us. They hold our attention long after the credits roll. They make us question every scene, every line of dialogue, every look in the eyes of the characters who remain. Midnight's cliffhanger was crafted to perfection. It wasn't closure. It wasn't resolution. It was the door slamming shut just as we were about to step through. And now all that's left is the unbearable wait to see if that door will open again in Season 5, or if it will remain closed forever. The mystery surrounding Season 5 of All the Queen's Men doesn't just rest on whether Midnight lives or dies. It lives in the possibilities that unfold from that single question. If Midnight is alive, his journey forward is far more complicated than ever before. And if he is gone, the void he leaves behind could reshape the series completely. That is why speculation has taken over fan spaces, and theories have grown louder. With every passing week, let's start with the first and most hopeful scenario. Midnight survives. It wouldn't be the first time he's walked away from certain death. Survival has always been at the center of his story. But surviving this time would come at a cost far greater than before. Midnight would no longer be the silent protector. Standing tall in the shadows, he would be a man scarred, both physically and emotionally, by betrayal and loss. If the writers choose this path, Season 5 could explore a darker, more vengeful Midnight, a man who no longer hides in the shadows but instead steps into the storm with nothing left to lose. In that version of events, Midnight becomes more dangerous than ever. His loyalty, once his strongest trait, may finally be shattered. If he can no longer trust those around him, what does that make him? Fans speculate that a Season 5 survival arc could transform Midnight into something we've never seen before, a character who operates outside of loyalty, outside of trust, driven purely by survival and revenge. That would be a powerful twist because it flips everything we thought we knew about him. But what if survival isn't the plan at all? Some believe the season for Cliffhanger was not meant to set up a comeback but a farewell. If that's the case, Season 5 might open not with Midnight's return but with the ripple effect of his absence. This path would carry devastating weight for the story. Every alliance he helped build would be shaken. Every bond he protected would be exposed. The Queen's empire, already unstable, would lose its quiet soldier, and in his place, chaos would take root. This could push the show into a new era, an era where the absence of one man reveals just how fragile everything truly is. Still, others point to the possibility of a shocking twist. All the Queen's Men has never been shy about surprising its audience, and Midnight could be at the center of its boldest move yet. Could he switch sides? Could the man we saw as the loyal protector become something darker, a traitor, an enemy, or even a silent mastermind who has been playing a longer game than anyone imagined? It sounds impossible, but in a world built on deception and power plays, the most unlikely scenario often turns out to be the truth. Adding to the speculation are the themes hinted at throughout previous seasons. Midnight's story has always carried undertones of sacrifice and consequence. The idea that no good deed goes unpunished has followed him from the very beginning. If Season 5 continues down that road, his fate might not be about survival or betrayal, but about closure. A final chapter where his sacrifices finally catch up with him, and his story ends not in glory, but in tragedy. It's a harsh possibility, but one that would send shockwaves through the series. That another theory explores the idea that Midnight's role is evolving beyond himself. What if Season 5 uses his fate as a mirror for other characters? His survival or his death could push those around him to make choices they never would have before. His presence has always shaped the story, but his absence could shape it just as much, if not more. For example, characters who relied on his strength may crumble without it, while others might rise in ways no one expected. The most fascinating part of these theories is that each one feels equally possible. The writers of all the Queen's Men have carefully built Midnight's arc to a point where every outcome feels both believable and devastating. Survival would change him forever, death would destroy the balance of the Empire, and betrayal would rewrite everything we thought we knew about loyalty. That is the brilliance of the cliffhanger. It left every door open. As fans wait for Season 5, speculation has become the fuel that keeps the fire burning. Midnight's fate is more than a storyline, it's a question of what the show itself will become, because no matter which path the writers choose, the consequences will ripple far beyond one man's life. This isn't just about whether Midnight lives or dies. It's about whether the show dares to break the unbreakable, to cross a line that once seemed untouchable, and to reshape the very core of its story. So, when Season 5 begins, the first few moments will carry more weight than any premiere before. Will we see Midnight rise again, scarred but alive? Or will the screen open on a world where his shadow no longer lingers, and the Queen's empire begins to crumble without him? Fans may debate endlessly, but the truth will only come when the curtain finally rises on the next chapter. Until then, Midnight remains both alive and gone, both a protector and a ghost, suspended in the most dangerous place of all, the unknown. Midnight has never been just another character moving across the board of all the Queen's Men. He is a symbol, a living metaphor woven into the very fabric of the story. To understand why fans are so invested in his fate, we need to look beyond the battles, beyond the betrayals, and examine what Midnight represents. His presence is not only about survival, it is about the deeper themes of loyalty, secrecy, and the inevitable cost of power. From his first introduction, Midnight carried with him the weight of loyalty. He was the man who stood tall when others crumbled, the man who chose responsibility over personal safety, his loyalty wasn't blinded, was deliberate, measured, and rooted in a sense of duty that transcended his own desires. In a world where every character had a price, Midnight was the rare figure who could not be easily bought. That made him both powerful and vulnerable. His loyalty became his greatest strength, but also his greatest weakness, because in all the Queen's Men, loyalty is always tested until it breaks. Symbolically, Midnight embodies the idea of the shadow. He is not the shining star in the spotlight. He is the presence lurking in the background, shaping events without demanding attention. The shadow is often overlooked, but it is always there, steady, patient, and unrelenting, just like a shadow. Midnight reflected the light and darkness of those around him. He revealed the true nature of others by the way they treated him, by the choices they made when his loyalty stood in the way of their ambitions. In many ways, he became the moral compass of the series, not because he was flawless, but because he showed us what sacrifice and resilience look like in their rawest form. There is also the theme of secrecy tied to Midnight. His very name suggests hidden truths, untold stories, and the darkness that exists when the world is asleep. Midnight was the keeper of secrets, the man who carried burdens that were never meant to be shared. His silence was both his weapon and his prison. By staying in the shadows, he protected others, but he also isolated himself. This duality reflects one of the show's core ideas that power is not just about what you hold in your hands, but about what you are willing to keep hidden from the world. Midnight's secrecy is a reminder that silence can be louder than any word, and the weight of unspoken truths can crush even the strongest of men. Perhaps the most important symbolism Midnight carries is the cost of survival. Every season has shown him endure impossible trials, but survival always came with a price. He lost pieces of himself along the way: trust, innocence, hope, and each loss carved deeper scars into his soul. In this way, Midnight represents the theme of endurance, the idea that survival is not a victory, but a constant negotiation between what you keep and what you sacrifice. His story forces us to ask, how much of yourself can you lose before you stop being who you are? Midnight's possible downfall in Season 5, if it comes, would not only be a plot twist, but also a symbolic message. It would suggest that even the most loyal, the most steadfast, cannot escape the cycle of betrayal and destruction that defines the Queen's empire. His death would not just be the end of a character, it would be the death of loyalty itself, the final nail in the coffin of trust within this ruthless world. On the other hand, if he survives, scarred but unbroken, his survival becomes a symbol of resilience, of the unyielding strength to keep fighting even when the world demands your surrender. Either way, his fate carries meaning beyond the man himself. It speaks to the themes that anchor the entire series. There's also a spiritual undertone to Midnight's arc. His journey feels almost biblical at times, the loyal servant carrying the weight of others, betrayed by those closest to him, yet continuing to endure. In this light, Midnight becomes a Christ-like figure, not because he is pure, but because he suffers for the sake of others. His pain becomes a reflection of the cruelty of the world around him. If Season 5 decides to end his journey, that sacrifice could be framed as martyrdom, a final act that reshapes the path of everyone left behind. But if there is one theme that Midnight's story captures best, it is the inevitability of change. He shows us that even shadows cannot remain still forever. They stretch, they shrink, they shift with the light. Midnight has been the constant in a world of chaos, but even he cannot outrun transformation. Season 5 may be the season where his role as the shadow evolves into something else entirely. Whether that's an ending or a rebirth remains to be seen. In the end, Midnight's symbolism is the heartbeat of all the Queen's men. He is the man who teaches us that silence is powerful, that loyalty is dangerous, and that survival always has a cost. His story is not just about one man's journey, but about the larger truth of the world he lives in, and that is why his fate matters so deeply, because whatever happens to Midnight, it will echo through the entire series, leaving a mark that no one can erase.